you took a little bit of a holiday here, but you might have been also distracted by the sport that was happening whilst you were sunning yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't really on social media much, but I was obviously keeping an eye on the US Open, especially because of Emma Raducanu, who, British tennis player, female. We don't really get many good British female tennis players here.
No, not a lot, right?
No,
not a lot. But what we've been used to is so much domination by Eastern European players now. If your name ends in an A or a U, this is where she fits in real nicely. Right? As we're just used to that domination by Eastern Europeans and some Americans too, but never by British. Absolutely. So I had firmly one foot on either side of the pond during this final, but it was an extraordinary event. And I've written about it, as you know. I've shared my thoughts, so I don't need to go over them now. You can find that at Team Talk, the blog on the website, wisports.com. Just look for Teenage Tornadoes, because I felt they were tornadoes, weren't they, Nancy?
Yeah, they were.
Just touching down.
Yeah. Boom. You just forgot how young they were, I think, watching the final, because the match was just kind of beyond their years almost. It was, incredible.
But we're going to start off as usual this week with our youth segment. Madison's back now with some athletes that she's highlighting this week from different sports. And this is nothing to do with the Olympics, because we started off with the Olympics and Paralympics, didn't we, Madison? But you've moved on from that now. Yeah,
moved on a bit. So for today's youth spot, I wanted to feature some young athletes that have had a really strong year. So first off, coming off of her US Open Juniors appearance, Robin Montgomery, 17 from the United States, is a tennis player, and she had a really great run at the US Open Juniors. During the 2021 competition, she swept the juniors girls singles and doubles title, and she started playing tennis at the age of 5 and is now the first girls player to win both singles and doubles titles since 2004. And this will be her last Grand Slam tournament as a junior. So after that, she'll be heading on to the full-fledged competitions. Another athlete is cycling back to the Olympics, because it's always fun to talk about the Olympics. Momiji Naisha is 13, Japanese skateboarder. And with skateboarding's debut in the Tokyo 2020 Olympics, it seemed like age was nothing but a number. These young athletes dominated the streets and parks, but the performance by Naisha at the Olympics was impressive. At only 13 years old, she won a gold medal after only 3 short years of competing. And she is now the youngest individual gold medalist in the past 85 years.
That's extraordinary, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's amazing. 13 years old, you start your career at the Olympics. Then where do you go?
I know. Yeah, she has a pretty impressive career that she's already accomplished, and lots to look ahead to. And then finally, Kate Wang is 16 from the United States, and she is a figure skater. So with the 2022 Olympics quickly approaching for the winter, Team USA figure skating teams is definitely something to keep an eye on. At only 16, Kate has had an impressive international skating career. Her personal best international competition was at the Junior Grand Prix in Russia, where she placed 6th. And she's currently on the Team USA figure skating roster for the 2021-2022 season. And with her impressive international career and Olympic appearance may be on the horizon for her.
Yeah, quite likely. And of course, there's Beijing Winter Olympics start in February, the 4th through the 20th, I think. And there'll be a lot of really promising young athletes coming along there, as you say, particularly in the skating, snowboarding, those events that appeal to youth. So maybe we can follow some more of those athletes then, Madison, in future episodes who might be going to Beijing.
Yeah, I think that sounds great. I think that we're going to start having some qualifying pretty soon.
Yes, for sure.
Across the board.
Yeah, they are training like crazy. And of course, we do winter sports quite well on this side of the pond. So, yeah, come back next week and bring us some new athletes to keep an eye out for.
I will be sure to do that. Have a great day.
Super. Thank you so much, Madison.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Well, it is all about youth, isn't it, Nancy?
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, it just shows age is just a number. Like, you can be a teenager, but still reach the pinnacle of sport. So hopefully it's inspiring a lot of other young girls to be taking part in sport, and shows that, you know, you don't have to wait years before winning a Grand Slam or something like that. You can do it pretty soon.
No, just kick on. I mean, you know, we what Emma Raducanu achieved was stunning, but of course there've been younger finalists too in Grand Slams, you know, 16, 17 years of age. So it's not so much her age, but it's everything else that she achieved, you know, not losing a set and being a qualifier and being able to play so many consecutive games and winning is extraordinary from the qualifiers too. And she played a lot of tennis leading up to it. So hopefully she'll have a really good break and just go home and be a teenager now after what she's been going through. Yeah,
I think, like you said, it is, you know, we had Bianca Andreescu win the US Open a couple of years ago when she was 19, and Iga Swiatek as well won, was it the French Open when she was 19, I think last year or the year before. So it's not unheard of.
2019, yeah.
But it is, like you said, it was the journey that she went on from kind of starting the year like 350th in the rankings and no one really knowing who she was, and then having a good Wimbledon, but, you know, it was kind of a home tournament. And then, going to the US Open as a qualifier, winning every single match pretty emphatically. And then, it's, you know, now 23rd, I think it is in the world rankings. It's almost an impossible story. I think, you know, if you'd put at the start of the year, if you were a betting person, you put a bet on her winning the US Open in January, I think probably the odds aren't even possible. Yeah,
probably not.
Yeah, so it just shows how incredible kind of the journey is, and not just the fact that she's only 18.
Yes. Yeah, and so much to look forward to, and imagine what those odds would be for the Australian Open in January. But we'll have more of that. Hopefully, you know, she will just stop and be a teenager now. I mean, the important thing is for her and her team to make the right choices now. And it's all about, you know, quality, not quantity, I think, with everything that she does. So we'll be watching her carefully, as indeed millions did, because, you know, we just got the ESPN figures for viewership, and again, this is, I think, the fifth time in 7 years that the women's final has topped the men. 2.442 million for the women and 2.051 for the men. But I don't know if you know, over here on the weekend now, we're in that football season, Nancy, and that does influence a little bit the Sunday audiences here. And this year they took it right up to the right, instead of having the sports desk, which they have for 5 or 10 minutes before they go to the US Open, they took it right up to the top of the hour. So, you know, we didn't have any pre-game talk, you know, like you did in the UK. And Amazon Prime sold the rights to Channel 4. So you got the women's final. But what about the men's? Did you have the men's?
I don't think they did the same. I think it was only for the women's final. So, of course, that would have made a difference with viewing here. I think I mean, because these figures are just ESPN, but I think the viewing figures over here, it definitely, the women's final would have completely dwarfed the men's final because it was on a free-to-air channel and because of the British interest.
Yes.
But yeah, like you said, it's quite interesting. Yeah, the fifth time in 7 years, I think, that the women's final has gained more viewers. So it's not even necessarily kind of like the story of Raducanu that attracted these viewers. In my opinion, I think that a lot of the time, quite a few of the times, women's tennis is just a bit more entertaining because it's slightly more unpredictable. So I think that's probably the reason that it can attract more viewers. But I also just thought it was interesting that there was about a 37% increase on viewers in total for both finals. So there was, for whatever reason, just an increased interest from last year in both events. So that's not quite sure the reasoning behind that, but that's good to see as well.
Yes, it is, and especially over here too. Because the football season starts and football is God over here. The American football. So it is very hard to squeeze any other sport in once football season starts. So that is particularly encouraging. So good for them. And it'll all go quiet now for a while. Of course, we've got the WTA final in Shanghai. Again, going back to Shanghai this year. I think Shanghai got a multi-year contract, didn't they, for the WTA final. But Emma doesn't need to do that. She can just save herself the next Grand Slam.
Yeah, she's got a bit of time now before the Australian Open. So she can, I think, just chill. Chill, absolutely. All right. Well, what else? So much else has happened in this past week. Whilst you were having a holiday already, that last weekend, I think we mentioned last week on the show, it was the European Dressage Championships. And talk about taking Olympic form home with you and continuing that Olympic form. We've got a few athletes that managed to do that, one of which was Germany's Jessica von Werndl, who with the Mare DSF Dalera, she won all 3 gold medals at the European Championship. The Grand Prix, which is the team, Grand Prix Special, which is individual, and the Freestyle, which is individual. And added to the 2 that she got in Tokyo, that means she's got 5 gold medals this year. That's not a bad tally, is it? No, not bad at all.
and also on terrific Olympic form is Carissa Moore, the surfer. She won the first ever. Surfing was a new sport, as you know, in the Olympics. And Carissa Moore, the Hawaiian girl, showed her form there. She won, of course, the gold medal there, but she came home to California anyway to win her 5th World Surf League title. So she's on absolutely cracking form, as is, the Australian Canoeist and Kayaker Jessica Fox, who won in Tokyo. She finished off her season by winning the total World Cup title. That was in Pau in the south of France in the Pyrenees. She won the canoe slalom, and she also won kayak there and picked up the overall title. And while we're on the water, there was Fiona Wylde, the American Fiona Wylde. She became the first stand-up paddling world champion. Did you know that, Nancy?
No, I didn't know that. That passed me by, that one.
No, they had their first world championships in Europe, and she took that. She took that title, so she's a pretty happy camper. Now we're going to go to football next, I think, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. So, is this the NWSL story?
Yes. Well, of course, that's the top story that came. Well, top story for us this week is it came out on the 10th of September. There's news from US Soccer, didn't it? Yeah.
So. Sorry, is this the equal pay story or the?
Yes.
So I think this is quite a positive step forward for the women's national team in the US, who have been, well documented. They've been fighting for equal pay with the men's team. Well, legally they've been battling for it since 2019, but I think it's obviously been something that they've been wanting for a while. But US Soccer has now revealed that they have offered identical contract proposals to both the men and women's teams. So previously, the teams had separate collective bargaining agreements, and this is where the kind of I suppose anger about how the women were being treated differently came from, because their collective bargaining agreement essentially gave them less money for almost doing better than the men's team. So the US Soccer have released a statement saying US Soccer firmly believes that the best path forward for all involved and for the future of the sport in the United States is a single pay structure for both senior national teams. This proposal will ensure that USWNT and USMNT players remain among the highest paid senior national team players in the world, while providing a revenue sharing structure that would allow all parties to begin anew and share collectively in the opportunity that combined investment in the future of US soccer will deliver over the course of a new collective bargaining agreement. So I think, that probably the key thing in that is the begin anew. I think there's been a lot of bad blood. I think the former US soccer president has said some quite offensive and hurtful things. There's been times where the women's team have worn their tops inside out so that it doesn't show the US soccer logo. So it sounds like US soccer kind of just want to put this behind them, as they say, start anew with this new collective bargaining agreement, which will essentially give the women's team equal pay. So, of course, the women's team have to accept this first. So we still wait and see whether it will. And I don't know if they do. I don't know then what happens with the court case that is currently being appealed after it was thrown out by a judge last year. So there's still a few kind of things to be tied up, and it doesn't mean that, they've achieved what they've set out for. They might be unhappy with some of the conditions in this collective bargaining agreement. So we'll have to see. But it seems like a step forward because, it seems like US soccer are kind of slowly changing their tune and starting to move in the right direction.
Yeah, I don't think the players are quite happy with it. From what I'm reading, they've said that the USSF's PR stunts and bargaining through the media will not bring us any closer to a fair agreement. Excuse me. In contrast, we are committed to bargaining in good faith to achieve equal pay in the safest working conditions possible. And the proposal that USSF made recently to us does neither. So I don't think they're willingly coming back to the table based on that statement that the USSF just put out last week. So we'll have to watch that one because it seems one step forward, but it's two back by the look of things.
Yeah, I think obviously there's this case going through, and I think, say if they maybe US soccer are kind of knowing they're probably going to lose that, and if the women's team do win that, they will have a lot more power to get what they want. So I can kind of understand why, then they're going to do it on their own terms as opposed to US soccer's terms. So it's going to be one to watch.
It certainly is. And some news about their old coach, Jill Ellis. She's got a new position, hasn't she?
Yeah, so she is now working with FIFA in an advisory position. I did see she created a bit of a stir because I think there's this idea that FIFA wanted to put out a Women's World Cup every 2 years, and she kind of confirmed that they were floating this idea. So people weren't happy about that. But so she will essentially advise FIFA on the future of women's football and working with stakeholders to kind of improve the international calendar and build global development. So Jill Ellis has kind of been around in women's football for so long and obviously very successful with the US, winning the World Cup with them in 2015 and 2019. So there's not really many better people to have that role, and hopefully she'll be able to advise FIFA to do things kind of in the right way and actually contribute to the development of women's football rather than sunset.
Yes, exactly. She'd be a very good voice for women's football. One piece of news that came in a couple of weeks ago, which the players are kind of not happy about over here in the NWSL, in the league, is the final that was announced is going back to Portland in Oregon. And they're going to be on grass and they're going to be playing at 9 o'clock in the morning. So there's been quite a bit of noise about that. Yeah,
it seems like a very strange decision. Like you said, a 9 a.m. kickoff time, which obviously, even for fans, that's annoying to have to get up really early to be there for a 9 a.m. kickoff. But for players, it's even worse because before games, you have to make sure that you've done your warm up and you've eaten properly. So that probably would normally mean eating something like pasta at 6 a.m. in the morning, which is just very bizarre. And then of course the artificial turf as well, which has kind of been something that's been complained about a lot in women's football because it has been linked with a more risk of being injured. So yeah, there's been a lot of kind of big name players like Ashlyn Harris, Ali Krieger, Jess Fishlock. They've all kind of tweeted about it. They're discontent, saying it's just a really bizarre decision to go to Portland. And then it's also Janine Becky, who she's a Canadian footballer who plays in England for Manchester City. She also kind of wrote the whole series of tweets about it, saying it's unacceptable, and just kind of all the reasons why it was so unacceptable. Yeah, so they're very angry about this. As far as I know, I don't think I've seen any kind of update on it, but I think surely it has to change, because I think the 9 a.m. kickoff is definitely the thing that's probably worse. It's just a very bizarre decision.
Yes, it's not like it's the Olympic Games, isn't it? When you have to play in, weird time zones. It's unusual, but there's no excuse for this, I wouldn't think, apart from scheduling. TV scheduling, I mean. Nancy.
Yeah, I think that must be the reason, because I think it's on CBC, but I think, maybe if the broadcaster maybe needs to value it more to not be showing it at 9 a.m. I don't know how many people would be watching TV at 9 a.m. either, so I don't know how much benefit that would give them.
No.
So yeah, just very strange, and I hope it does change for the sake of the players, and then also for the fans. I think it's better if you have a big match in the evening or the afternoon, so more people can get to it or watch it as well.
Yes, no, for sure. Timing is everything, as they say. I want to give a quick shout out to, Stephanie Labay, who's the Canadian goalkeeper, won the gold medal in Tokyo. Her fiance, they announced that they got engaged after Tokyo. Her fiance is the Canadian multisport athlete. She's a skier and cyclist, Georgia Simmerling. And she's done 4 Olympic Games, and she's just announced her retirement so she can move to Paris to be with her fiance. And she's got something in the pipelines that's about women's sport. She's talking about investing in women's sports, and all will be revealed shortly. So we've talked to Georgia in the past. I think I'll have to catch up with her and see what she's got brewing there. But shout out to her before we go to Afghanistan, because you've got really some more news, football news and cricket news, haven't you, about Afghanistan? Yeah,
so 2 sports, and kind of one's good news and one isn't as good. So yeah, the first one is the Afghanistan women's youth football players and families have managed to flee to Pakistan. So we've talked about earlier how the senior players were evacuated to Australia quite early on after the Taliban took over the country. They managed to get out pretty early. And I think there were concerns about the youth players as well, who'd kind of been left in the country, but they've now managed to get to Pakistan as well. So yeah, there had been concerns about the sportswomen in Afghanistan because of the Taliban's rule normally restricts freedoms of women, which also includes women's sport. And they have said now that women there won't be able to play sport, and especially cricket. I don't know why cricket was given emphasis, but there was a statement that said that women wouldn't be able to play cricket, which subsequently led to Australia's one-off men's test match against Afghanistan, which was going to take place in Australia. Cricket Australia cancelled it because of the Taliban banning women from playing sport. I think kind of as it didn't want to be seen to be kind of supporting that stance. So yeah, Cricket Australia said in a statement, if recent media reports that women's cricket will not be supported in Afghanistan are substantiated, Cricket Australia would have no alternative but to not host Afghanistan for the proposed test match. Driving the growth of women's cricket globally is incredibly important to Cricket Australia. Our vision for cricket is that it is a sport for all, and we support the game unequivocally for women at every level. So, it's having kind of consequences for men's sport as well here. But I think, the priority is obviously, just hopefully somehow the women there will be able to play sport or cricket again soon. And it's a real shame that they're being prevented from being able to do so.
Yeah, it really is. It's all, there's nothing good coming out of Afghanistan right now, least of all for women's sports.
Yeah, it's it's thankfully there has been the evacuation, so the women's football team and the Paralympians as well. But yeah, it's a shame. I think they were kind of developing at quite a good pace. And now, this has kind of stunted it. So yeah, it's a big shame.
Well, there's some breaking news as we record this show. Today was the start of a hearing in Congress into the investigation of the FBI's handling of the Larry Nassar case. And that news is dropping constantly this morning here in the States. And Nancy, I know you've been watching it as well, because Simone Biles, Sally Raceman, and Michaela Maroney are the three key witnesses that are testifying to senators now about what Simone Biles is saying, that the system enabled and perpetrated his abuse. And her testimony so far has been very emotional. But yeah, this is a story that's not going away anytime soon, because this investigation is really, really important, but it just prolongs the suffering for these victims, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And I think, the idea of it is to find out why the FBI's investigation into the abuse case kind of took so long and why it wasn't, didn't end it sooner. So they're kind of trying to discover the failings to make sure that it doesn't happen again, which I think kind of, like these gymnasts are almost kind of sacrificing themselves to hopefully make sure that there's, prevent the abuse in sport in later years. But yeah, it must be incredibly traumatic. It seems to be very emotional. And yeah, just hopefully that, the outcome of this hearing will put kind of structures in place that will make sure that there's never a repeat of what happened with USA Gymnastics. Yeah.
Absolutely. And as you say, this is about the FBI's investigation, delayed by a year in terms of when these athletes first reported the abuse before the FBI did anything about it. And then they kept sweeping it under the carpet. So the investigation is, why? What was going on there? So I'm glad it's gone before Congress. I'm sure a lot of people are, because, accountability is everything. Anyway, we'll follow that. I'm sure there'll be more of that on next week's show, because they are currently in the middle of that hearing. I know we talked about football, but was there anything else that happened on your side of the pond that we should know about this week?
Well, we had our season. The season has continued. So we had the second week of the Women's Super League here, which, I didn't really get to watch any of it because I was away. But it was a good weekend for Arsenal anyway, because they beat Reading 4-0. But then also But
you'd already beaten Chelsea, right?
Yeah.
You'd beaten Chelsea. Yeah, that was. Yeah. I watched some of that. That was the week before.
Yeah. So and that was a big result, because Chelsea are probably the favourites to win the league. So to build on that with a victory against Reading is really good. Chelsea got back into their groove by beating Everton 4-0, so that was pretty straightforward for them. But there was a shock result that Tottenham Hotspur beat Manchester City 2-1. So obviously Man City are kind of one of the better teams in the league. They came second last season, and then Tottenham they're a relatively new team to women's football. Like, they've always been about, but the club has invested in the women's team quite a lot. So they've only come into the Women's Super League, I think it was 2 seasons ago. So for them to beat Man City, that's a really impressive achievement. It just shows that the league's becoming more competitive. So a bit of an upset there as well.
And Arsenal managed to win even without Tobin Heath, who they signed, of course, and she's back over here getting ready for the friendly against Paraguay tomorrow night. That'll be fun. There's 2 games against Paraguay. They're both going to be in Ohio. So, unfortunately, too far to go. But nonetheless, it's fun to watch the girls back. We'll watch them on TV. watch them all back together again in training. Big smiles. There's been some changes. We've got Mallory Pugh back, and of course we've got some injuries too. With Sam Mewissing is one of them, but Carly Lloyd playing in her last 4 internationals, and then that's it for her. But so much talent, so much depth of talent. I mean, yes, she'll be missed, but there's so much depth of talent there, isn't there?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of really good young players coming through, so it's probably their time soon to kind of start being regular, in the regular starting 11. It doesn't. I think it is very sad to see a player like that retire from international football, but yeah, there'll be someone else taking her place pretty soon, I think.
Yeah, for sure. So what else is happening? Who are Arsenal playing this week?
So it's an international break this week. So England are playing, starting the World Cup qualifying against Macedonia on Friday and then Luxembourg on Tuesday. So I think, not to disrespect either of those teams, but I think it will be quite comfortable victories because I don't think either Macedonia or Luxembourg has much in the way of, kind of a fully funded women's football team. So, yeah, I think that should be quite comfortable victories for England there.
And I would say this should be quite comfortable victory for the US against Paraguay, shouldn't it?
Oh, yeah, I think so, yeah.
But it's a good exercise for them, especially after the Olympic experience, getting them back. All right, we'll look forward to that. I won't miss that, and I'm sure you won't be missing much of the football over there either. What else is happening apart from football?
So I suppose fallout of the US Open. We've got the Rugby League, the Premier 15s that started again a couple of weeks ago.
In rugby?
Yeah. So, yeah, Rugby Union, the Women's League is going at the weekend as well. I think apart from that, it's relatively quiet. I mean, because all the Olympic sports are having a bit of a break now. So it's kind of, just really hit into the football season. But I mean, I'm not complaining too much about that.
No. All right. Well, we've given, as I said earlier, to Madison, we'll be gearing up here for the Beijing Olympics pretty soon. But before that, of course, is the start of the World Cup skiing, which is always kicks off in Solden in Austria in October. So we're going to talk to Peggy Shin, who's been on the show a couple of times before. She's going to do a little preview in a few weeks' time before that season kicks off. So we'll look forward to having Peggy back on the show. And I think that's about it for this week then, isn't it, Nancy?
Yeah, that's it. It's another amazing week for women's sport. I think, everyone seemed very captured by the US Open final. So, it's been an amazing week.
Yeah, it's been all about tennis. And as I mentioned earlier, I did write about that in my blog, Team Talk, which is on wisports.com. Just look for Teenage Tornadoes. And you can sign up for the newsletter too while you're there, with a monthly newsletter, and catch up on all the other stories we cover here at wisports.com. And we're obviously at wisports on social media. And if you're in iTunes and feel like leaving us a preview or a rating, that helps others find us too. And don't forget to follow Nancy at
Nancy_Gillen on Twitter. And then my Instagram account is NancyGillen_sports. And then, all my writings at Give Me Sport Women, which on Twitter is Give Me Sport W.
All right. Until next week. Thanks for listening.
The reasoning behind it, because obviously, I mean, I don't know if people realise when we said it there, but they've taken women out of the name. And that's been done to kind of make a statement. So Tamini, I don't know, this name's confusing. Tamania, the commissioner of what was formerly known as the National Women's Ice Hockey League, said, "We felt it's time for our players to be defined by their talent and skill. It's not like they're female phenomenal, that you're just phenomenal." They also want the title to be more inclusive by respecting various gender identities of its players and fan bases. So it seems like a really good move. And I think the league has always been quite advanced in promoting gender equality in sport. It was they paid their players a salary. It was the first North America's first women's ice hockey league to pay players a salary. And I remember there's been quite a few, a lot of the players have been really kind of very outspoken about, what they want and what they think they should deserve. So it's really interesting to see this kind of rebrand, and again, interesting to see if other leagues follow suit as well, because obviously a lot of names of leagues have women in the headline, in the title. So yes. I'm intrigued to see what happens there.
Yeah, that is an interesting one, isn't it? If you actually take, because right now we'll talk about women's football, men's football, women's hockey, men's hockey. I don't need to do that. I mean, if I said I'm going to be watching hockey, I'd have to reinforce the fact that it was women's I was watching.
Yeah,
wouldn't you? I mean, how do you feel about it?
I think it's quite similar to World Rugby when they've now changed the name of the Rugby World. So it's not Women's Rugby World Cup, Men's Rugby World Cup, and it's kind of just essentially by what year it is. That's how you know whether it's the men or the women's. I think at the time when they announced that, I think it was one of those things where I was like, it's a bit tokenistic. How much does changing a name really do? You kind of want more tangible change. And I think it can be slightly confusing. I think sometimes you do have to differentiate. So I'm intrigued to see what happens with this one.
Yeah, I think you have to distinguish, because only people in the sport would know, say in rugby, what year it was, whether it's men or women.
Yeah, for someone, I think that's just come into the sport, you wouldn't necessarily know.
No.
What year things fall. So it is quite tricky.
All right. Shall I quiz you on dressage championships now? There's the European Dressage Championships.
You can, but I think I'll probably fail the quiz.
Okay. All right. Well, real quickly, I want to round up, because just started this week, following the European Show Jumping Championships, which took place in Germany last week. The European Dressage Championships, they started in Hagen, Germany. And this year, it looks like the Germans again, because they're hosting an all-women team, they're going to be favourites. They're going to be taking that something like 25th title if they win this week. And they won in Rotterdam. That was so 2 years ago. The Europeans in dressage and jumping are every 2 years, and they're the queen, the doyen of dressage. Germany's Isabel Werth. She brought her personal European medal collection to a staggering 24 when she rode Bella Rosa, which was the horse that she rode in Tokyo. Now, a lot of those same riders are coming back to Hagen, competing in Hagen, that were on the Olympic team, and not least of all is going to be the triple gold medalist in Tokyo, Jessica von Werndl, and she's going to be riding that lovely mare TSF Dalera again, and Isabel Werth is going to be riding Via Gold, who's a 16-year-old mare. Now that horse, she won the team gold in Rio in 2016, and she won the triple gold at the FAI European Championships in 2017. Now she's going to be the rest of the team. She's going to be partnering with Dorothea Schneider, who's going to be riding Faustus 94, and Helen Langenhagenberg, who's going to be riding that lovely mare Annabelle. Now that just tells you, all women, mostly riding mares too. It's really interesting how powerful the Germans are, though. You probably follow that much in equestrian sport, when it comes to jumping and dressage particularly, and eventing. They've caught up with the Brits a lot. But in the British team there in Hagen this week, it's going to be all of the Olympic dressage team members. And they're going to even add their reserve who traveled but didn't compete. He was the alternate for Tokyo. So that's a sport where with the horses, you can come back again, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 5 weeks later and compete in a major championship. So that's happening in Hagen, Germany this week. We'll have the results for you next week. And I think that about wraps it up, Nancy. What else is exciting for you? I know the answer to this. It's not football, is it?
No, I'm going on holiday tomorrow, which is exciting. So yeah, probably going to be a bit. I mean, I don't think I'll be able to be keeping up with sport as much as I usually do, but I definitely, if Emma Raducanu gets to the final, I'm going to find a way to watch that. But yeah, no, it's very exciting. Been a very long time, having gone from traveling constantly with work to not leaving the country at all. It's been a very long time, so I'm excited to be in another country again.
And you're going to a country you had not traveled to before?
Yes, I'm going to Portugal to go to Lisbon. And yeah, I haven't been to Portugal. It's one of the last kind of mainstream European countries that I haven't been to. So it's great to tick that off. And I've heard amazing things about Lisbon. It's meant to be really beautiful, and the weather is nice there. So
the weather is beautiful. It's very historic. It's fabulous. If you like historic, European history, historic buildings, cathedrals, it's a beautiful city. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, I hope you don't bring a sunburn back with you next week before we record.
Yeah, I'm that and COVID. I just don't want to get COVID and get stuck. That is the worst nightmare. So I'm going to be, no COVID, no sunburn.
No, that's the plan. Right. That is the plan. Well, I hope it goes according to plan and you have a fabulous time, Nancy.
Thank you very much.
All right, and are you going to have a bit of a rest from your training for the London Marathon?
Well, I ran yesterday, I ran today, and I'm going to do one run. So I am going to run on holiday, which is extreme, but it's got to be done. So I'll do one. So it won't be too bad. I'll just get up early, and I'll just use it as a chance to do a bit of sightseeing and run along the promenade by the sea, which I think will be nice. So
beautiful.
Yeah, I think it'd be a nice experience.
Yeah, it will. And it'll be a memory that you will always have, that you had a training run for the London Marathon in Lisbon, no less.
Yeah, I know. It's not very pandemic, is it? It's maybe back into normal times.
It certainly isn't. All right. Well, in the meantime, of course, we will continue to watch the news as it unfolds here this week, not least of all on the US Open Tennis Championships there that will be wrapping up at the end of this week. And we'll have whatever else comes our way. No doubt Nancy will be back in time to keep up with all the football news as well. In the meantime, don't forget to watch what Nancy's doing on social media and read her stories at givemesportwomen.com. I think that's right, is it, Nancy?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And Nancy_Gillen. And we, of course, at WiSP Sports and at WiSP Sports on social media. So do give us a follow and a share and leave your comments and questions and let us know if there's anyone you'd like to hear from on the show or any sport that we should be covering that we're missing here. We like not to be too focused on any one sport. We try to cover every sport that women do. All right, Nancy, well, have a fantastic time, and we'll be waiting to hear a report on how that holiday went and what else is happening in your life when you come back here next week. Same time, same place.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.